streaming live on Facebook. I believe it's working. We are here today. This is our first, I'm Susan Lakin, and this is our first of a weekly conversation series leading up to our Frameless Lab Symposium. And we're going to be chatting with RIT alumni who are working in virtual reality and augmented reality. And today we have Damian Kwiatkowski, and he is with the Mill, a real-time CG generalist at the Mill and a graduate from the College of Art and Design. And I also have with me today Tessa Kota, and she is my wonderful, fabulous student assistant. She's going to help manage any questions that anybody has in the comment section. So welcome, Damian. You are our first guest for our new series, and I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your experience coming out of school. I think you came out, graduated in 2017, is that right?
Oh, that's correct, yeah.
Cool. And so you want to tell us a little bit about what school you were in and kind of what led you to the Mill, and just you know, to give, I'm hoping that we'll have some students online to kind of give an idea of what your journey was from going from school into industry.
Great. Yeah, so thank you for inviting me to speak. So yeah, my name is Damian Kwiatkowski, and my little brief background is, you know, I always liked video games. Like, that's just what I did nonstop. And I also liked art, so I decided I'm gonna combine the two. So I ended up at RIT, and I went into 3D digital design, and that's where I learned pretty much majority of what I use now. And it's actually great being students because you're exposed to all the new technology that is out right now. And when you go out there in the industry, you actually realize that you know, the pipelines are you know, pre-existing, and you are actually coming in with these brand new skills that people are looking for. So so that was exciting to come out of school, going to RIT and having that kind of preparation to know, like, oh, like, I know that tool, or but yeah, so after that, or while still at RIT, I got to work at digital imaging lab, and I think they might still actually need students. So I'm gonna reach out to them about that, because I know right now everyone's working remotely, but I think they could still use some 3D modelers, because really I think the best part about being in school is the connections you get to make, because like, I'm still learning, we're all learning as this technology is evolving, and that's just going to be the case at all times. So at school, you really get to participate in all sorts of group projects, and really that's the most important thing that I wish I did more. Thinking back, is focus more on, you know, group projects and making those mistakes early on, because I got to make my first mistakes during my internship at Pixar, which was scary, right? So you want to make your mistakes as early as possible, and as often as possible. And from then on, I got an internship.
Can I ask you, yeah. Damian, can I ask you a question about that? Can you expand upon, when you say group project, what can you define that a little bit more in terms of, you know, is it collaboration with other people on campus to work on a project that's something that would be larger than what you would do with your individual assets? Can you just further define that?
Yeah, totally. So, you know, it can be two things. It could be on an official level where you're actually getting paid, and you could find projects within RIT that are evolving in that spectrum. But what I mean is just including people in your creative process, and asking professors about stuff and being in the studio. I feel like I haven't spent enough time in the studio as I could have. And really it's just exposing people to the work that you're doing. Um, in the past, in order to show your work, you have to um, be in a gallery space, for example. So once you're out there talking to clients, and there's going to be a really small pool of people that get to see your work, and a small pool of people that you get to talk to about your work. Um, so group projects, you know, group projects. I don't want to change the definition of group projects, but just overall communication about projects. Like I always, pestered my professors about this grand story I was trying to tell, and they were always excited to help me with the technical barriers because they understood that I had a greater idea about it. And the only way that you get that sort of energy from other people is if you communicate that idea. And 3D ends up being sort of, or digital media ends up being kind of on the far end of things. So ideas start with, talking to people and scribbling and writing. So the more you get to talk to people while you're in school, the better you're gonna come out. So don't get holed up in your dorm, and like don't talk to anyone because you have this grand reveal project. And I'm guilty of that, of trying to make like this grand surprise, but it's usually right now while you're in school, it's better to just open up to people and show them like this is what I'm doing. What do you think? And that will make it more comfortable for you to answer these paid projects. For example, I got to sophomore year, a computer science major needed some artists, and I guess no one really was interested, and I sent my stuff, and then I was suddenly paid artist for the first time, and it was like such a big deal. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was still like just the passion of that, of getting to work. And it's easier while you're at school than when you come out. So I would like really focus on trying to show your work to as many people as possible while you can.
Thanks. I appreciate that because I'm always advocating for collaborative courses on campus. And for a while, David Halpstein and I were teaching a collaborative course. I'm in the School of Photographic Arts and Sciences, and he's in the school, as you know, that you graduated from. And we brought the photo students together with the 3D digital design students, which was really wonderful because you also learn the language of each of the different artistic practice. And as you said, it expands what you're doing, it expands your creativity as well too, and really helps you network. So I appreciate that that feedback for people that are tuning in.
Right. Yeah, and also you want to spread like the art that you're doing, and I'm gonna try to flow more into the technical stuff. So the stuff that we're doing is actually very unique out there in the world, like doing art on a computer, and especially VR and augmented reality. So as you're sharing your work, remember to share it with just like people that aren't making art, aren't making the things that you're making, because that will give you a perspective of your target audience. What's the, what do people want to see? Because I often find sort of like, art for artists, created by artists, sort of like this loop. It's usually a turntable loop, but just, focusing on like, what would a person that doesn't know anything about 3D think about this, right? And now as we are transitioning from consoles and from TV screens or monitors, and being kind of bound to expensive system, people are finding that they have entertainment sort of in their pocket. and especially sort of virtual reality and augmented reality is becoming, mini games were always on your phone, but the idea of including the person and giving them a chance to interact with their environment and create something is expanding on it. It's really driving the hardware, where no one really wanted to expand on the gaming possibilities of mobile devices. But now that they see, okay, but you can actually do these kinds of things, like augment reality with them, companies are really pushing for mobile. As these chips become smaller and smaller, we will have like more and more rendering power in our pockets. And obviously, the hardware, I'm sitting on a lot of hardware. There's always going to be hardware that is bigger and can perform more things. And that's where kind of like the difference between the target audience comes in, because the close up on like some shader and you can see all the ray tracing and it's amazing, and you can't tell it's real or CG, and it's perfect, and any CG artist will look at it and it's like, wow, that's amazing work. But you show it to a regular person and it's like, well, yeah, it's a photo. It's like, no, there's a whole thing built around it. So understand that your audience doesn't understand what you're doing. So try to wow them with the magic, because it's all magic to them. So the more, and you hear this when you're in the industry, you hear this terms. That's why you hear like people being called wizards and Jedis, and it's just like a thing. So always think about your target audience.
What I have found interesting just recently is I'm finding that the content is beginning to drive the hardware, because I've been so impressed in just the last year or two, just the amazing VR content that's out there and AR content that's out there, but in particular the VR content that's not getting out as much to a wider population, and which I feel is driving, getting the hardware to the point where it's affordable and it can be, can looked at as
Right.
accessed by the general population as well too. So
Yeah,
I think I feel like the artists are driving that as well.
There's definitely like a new generation of this hardware coming out, and you see that with phones now having multiple cameras on the back, so that they can get a 3D scan of multiple sensors, versus just caring about taking a picture. They want to see the space, using multiple sensors for depth finding and all that kind of stuff. And same with VR. For the first time, we're able to go cordless. And if you've ever tried cordless VR, even though the graphics are like mobile quality, so obviously not even less than what you expect from VR, but there's something about the fact that it's cordless and that there's nothing tethering you, and you can get completely lost moving 360, that you sort of don't look at the graphics and you just lost in the game mechanics. And you're just having fun and you're in that world, you're completely immersed. So yeah, these tools we're definitely expanding in that front of changing our reality. The other softwares, and they'll continue to exist, and there will always be a renderer that looks better pre-rendered than something real time. That's just, it's always something that takes 2 minutes will always so there's always going to be that. But that's why we can't really chase graphics, but more so chase, like, again, talking to people and what do they want to see, how would they want to augment their reality. And at my job, a lot of times we get to work with prototype tools. For example, I got to work on Magic Leap or Facebook when they were coming out with Spark AR. And so there's this push for creating tools for creators, so that people, again, people who aren't wizards, or they don't know anything about CG or Maya or 3D modeling. It's all crazy to them. They still get to be creators. So that's the most effective way to get someone to share something, like, is to get their face involved, right? So if they get to create something and share it, and it happens so that there's product in there, then that is the most organic way of and sorry if I didn't know, if I haven't mentioned, I'm in advertising, so I'm thinking of selling products, or in that sort of way, less so telling story arcs or movies. So I'm thinking like very quick responses from people. So again, you have to think about, like, what kind of work do you want to do, and how do you want the work to be viewed? So if you're kind of a fast-paced person like I am, I decided, okay, I have to do real time because I'm impatient. So I have to do real time, and then, like, I like my technology accessible. So that's kind of how I found my own path, is just doing what I like. And if you just do what you like long enough, someone's going to pay you to do it. But yeah, sorry, I call
That's okay.
little
You know,
tangents.
one thing I didn't mention is that you have participated in the Frameless Symposium in the past. You came and gave a talk in our 2018 symposium, and the Mill's been really great about providing some of the latest content that they have created as well too. And when you mentioned the advertising, I know they showcased the Beat the Blitz, which I wasn't sure if that was the year you were there or the year before. I know they also participated, which was for Gatorade.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
was a great one in terms of, reaching out to teens and talking about hydration and how important that was. That was a really cool campaign too.
Yeah. So that one had a lot of layers to it. And that was actually the first time that there was this photogrammetry, real-time photogrammetry used, where they were scanning, what was his name? I should remember his name. It was a football player. It was like top 3 most famous football player. Probably, I wish one of the students just like said it. It would probably be one of them. Peyton. Okay, I should know this.
Yes.
So, so there was technology used where he was able to act his script out, and he didn't have to wear a suit or anything like that. There was a lot of cameras recording him at the same time, capturing him in real time. And then we took that point cloud and we put it into virtual reality. And it was a big feat because of how much data it took to record him live. And I guess that is sort of still XR, is it? I guess a little bit photogrammetry. I've noticed that XR, augmented reality, virtual reality, it's all sort of blending and melting into each other. And I think the more you mix these medias, the better result you get. And I think some of the stuff that has been announced as far as hardware is saying that they're going to be mixing AR and VR. And if you ever got to play around with an Oculus, you probably noticed the camera they have when you're setting up your room, and you kind of have this vision of the room, and it's almost like a game in itself, because you get to see your environment in this augmented way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna start seeing people wearing glasses with cameras on them.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just the advances have been amazing. It's such an exciting time. Now, did you, so you were talking about that you did an internship at Pixar while you were a student, and then you were hired by the Mill when you graduated. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So did you graduate? Because I know they did the keynote speaker at Frameless in 2017. Had you graduated at that point, or were you still a student? Do you remember?
2017 spring.
Hmm.
I think I think I was already graduated. I'm not totally sure. Too much
Okay.
too much caffeine and not sleep.
The only
um,
reason I was asking is because, I was just curious how you found out about the job at the mill. And, one of
mhm.
the goals in doing some of these conversations is, as you said earlier, that, there's possibilities that of different internships to help connect students to industry. So I was curious how you discovered the job at the mill, and you want to talk a little bit about how that transpired.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, that's why I'm here. Is to ultimately get to meet you guys and hopefully find some talent that we can bring onto our team.
Right.
Not just to talk about myself. I know it's that's been the last 25 minutes, but ultimately it's to share what we do and get you guys to kind of get a slice of the industry. And it's a really tiny industry. You find out as you keep meeting the same people over and over, especially when you're freelancing. And yeah, we're always looking for more. If you're following kind of like the stats or the industry and how it's growing, it's going to keep expanding in the field of augmented reality and virtual reality. Um, as people, and you have the social media stuff, and this is going back to, making the viewers creators themselves. So a lot of the games that you guys are working on, or softwares or programs or animations, try to think about how you could include a viewer's choices or perspectives, or what they would think about when you sort of have to start adapting to a world where the viewer is not just going to sit there and watch a screen. They want to touch things, they want to change it, they want to hear it. I mean, one day we're gonna even be pumping in, smells, and that's already happening in like theaters where they have the full immersion. But instead of recreating reality, people will just be expanding on it with these tools, and it is a little bit dystopian. And I'm sure we've seen, there's an episode of there's a few episodes of Black Mirror, when they put the contacts in, and it's pretty dystopian. But there's always gonna be extremes. So I don't think we're gonna be putting in contacts in our eyes. I think before that, it's gotta be some time. It's not that fast. The technology is not that fast. But it's going, the computers and the processors and hardware is going to keep getting smaller as we're also finding out ways to use it more efficiently. Because that's a lot of what's happening now is, when a console comes out, I'm sure you guys know this, that when it first comes out, there's certain graphics, but by the end of its lifespan, people have expanded on how the technology can be used to like really take advantage of the hardware. Um, so yeah, it's all changing, and definitely the manufacturers of hardware are aiming to turn everyone into a creator. So being creators right now, I would focus on, first doing what you love, but also, thinking about the audience and sort of expecting their reactions, and don't get too caught up in, the art station loop of, because I often do like, oh, that looks cool, I want to make something like that, and then I make it, and then someone else makes it, and then it's just a loop of things. Try to step out of a place like ArtStation or a different website, and check out, art in different places, because ArtStation has become a place where people put their portfolios. I myself use it as my main website, and I go on it all the time. But it is a website by artists for artists. So totally expand and go out of this artist culture that you're totally in right now, being in school, being surrounded by artists and professors, realize that the world is actually like all these people that don't do the kind of stuff you do, and you know, focus on creating work that they can enjoy, that's is more understandable by them, as well as interactable. Um, um,
So
yeah.
did you want to talk a little bit about, you were going to mention some of the projects you've worked on in the past at the mill?
Yeah, so one project in particular I thought had enough layers of different XR, was this project for Lego we did. And as Susan said earlier, we had a talk before. You know, Lego is totally pushing their augmented reality and including iPads and phones into their toys, you know, and expanding what kids can do in their imagination. Um, and so for this particular one, we didn't get to play with Legos. No one bought us any Legos. But so the project was that there was going to be an event in LA at this haunted house, and a bunch of video YouTubers or streamers, famous creators will go there and they'll interact within this space. So the space itself would be augmented by, you know, projection mapping and lighting. So we're creating an experience that you go to. And then the main part of that was this character that you get to interact with. And the character was actually driven by a real actor and in real time. And he was actually a puppeteer from Sesame Street. So the puppeteering happened with the use of leap motion. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's this like tiny sensor, and it pretty much reads your hand. And the way he was able to control it is kind of like, this was the body, you know, so he could move it, and then different fingers were doing all sorts of different motions with just his hands. And then we also had an iPhone connected that was reading the face, and then based on values, it was transferring the face into these, you know, Legos aren't three-dimensional. So it was based on the values, it was looking at this table of images and snapping to like a specific specific face shape. And so we had a 2D artist that drew like every single, like, oh wow, like all the face shapes in order for it to be recognizable by the systems. Then when the animator or the puppeteer talks, it's able to recognize all the shapes and turn them into 2D, because it's not 2D to begin with. It gives you three-dimensional data, or yeah. So I got to work on that as far as like lighting and shading and doing the look depth within Unreal, because it was all rendered inside of Unreal, and there was another part to it that was XR, or yeah. So being a real time, we were able to, you know, create this scene that the character could walk around inside of. So we were able to place the camera in multiple locations. So it was virtual production before people called it that. So it was a virtual set. It was a virtual set in real time with a puppeteer. So we could always swing the camera and have the character. So we had a few locations, because in real time there are limitations to lighting, and you know, you don't have bounce light. Especially, you know, RTX came out, but like no one is using RTX yet. No one has it figured out. Not a single company. Like, I turned it on in a video game and it was like breaking. So I wouldn't chase you know, ray tracing just yet. I would focus more on stories and elements that don't require a $4,000 computer to render, because it is real time. So that's pushing it into a place where the application will crash.
So, you mentioned the Legos as an event. That was one of the things that I noticed too early on, is that most of these experiences had to be taken to events because people wouldn't have the hardware to be able to access it. So you saw a lot of companies using this as augmenting their campaigns in order to showcase it in a different way. You're seeing that still happening, but more and more the ability to be able to expand that. And so I'm curious to get your perspective on the field, and as you're talking about, how story is really at the core and really important. I think we emphasize that a lot. And just from your perspective, where you see the field maybe heading as we go forward and as technology continues to develop.
Totally, yeah. Well, obviously we can't ignore what's going on in the world, right? And the expos of the past, and having a VR headset and putting them on each person, and that's what I experienced, and the kind of work we did is obviously something that no one's going to want to do in near future. Put on a VR headset that someone else had, so, or maybe they will. So we need to you need to consider, right, what people are willing, how people are willing to experience this, because it is kind of taking them out of their comfort of how they have experienced entertainment, which is watching a TV or just scrolling through their phone. It is going to be something that is completely new, and the tools you're learning right now, they're going to continue to change. I just got accepted into this Unreal, not intern, fellowship. And so I'm excited that I get to go back to school, sort of, because the tools keep changing, and it's really on you to learn them. And I think college was definitely more about, making mistakes and talking to people and doing that kind of thing. So you're never going to be done learning, and this technology is going to continue to change. So you have to continue adapting. Don't get bogged down on one specific software or one specific way, because ultimately that will change. You can pick what you want to work on now, but be prepared that one day, a student is going to come out of college and going to take your job, so you have to continue being a student. You have to continue adapting. And that is, yes, that's your advantage right now, is that you get to experiment, but you can't expect, experts on the fields, because the minute you watch a video that has 50 views on YouTube on some new workflow, you're the expert. So continue, there's definitely a lot of things changing right now, and we're still adapting to it, because we concerts are changing. I did a lot of concerts, and most things that I worked on were events that people went to, so they were public gatherings, and then something was happening there. So there's definitely, I've had to adapt of what kind of work I do if I want to stay in the industry. So I can't really predict what will happen, other than predict that something will definitely happen, something will definitely change. That is 100% given, that the tools, and it's changing faster and faster as well, and the tools are changing, and there's always going to be a better tool that's more specialized, right? So you have packages of tools, and there's always just going to be, well, this thing can do this thing better, but then it can't do something else. So again, focus more on the end results of the story you're going to tell, the people you're going to reach, and the tools are just helping you with that. Don't focus too much on learning the tools because they're gonna change. So adapt. Continue learning. I guess that's all I can say. Like I'm continuing to learn, and definitely right now with cameras, I'm struggling with like connecting to Zoom meetings and stuff like that. Like, so we're all sort of becoming like little engineers, and we all have like a better idea of just, I don't know, cabling, because we have to deal with it. Where someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, they haven't had to, plug in an internet cable in and out like at all, because that's just, so we're all adapting, we're all changing what our roles are, and we're all kind of like, no one knows really what. Yeah. So
I appreciate you bringing that up too, because one of the conversations that we're having in academia is, the idea of a 60-year curriculum, that we have to give our students the tools to be lifelong learners, right? So that they recognize that exactly what you're doing is that you're doing a fellowship while you're actually in industry, because you're constantly, somewhat reinventing yourself, and also being nimble and flexible as things keep shifting and changing, and really it's very important, and I think a really important point that you're making too.
Yeah, so at first I thought you said like, learning something that will work for you for the next 60 years. No, learning to learn, so that you make the investment now, and then you understand how to find the information. And
yeah, exactly. And I think one of the fields that I see virtual reality really activating right now is in training. I mean, that's what I think people are utilizing that for training within companies to keep people updated and continue their education process as well too.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of work in expanding these communication channels. Like now that we have to talk to each other, through Zoom meetings, now we want to like change our backgrounds, or and there's all these tools that are becoming available that allow us to be little creators, and but we have to be the ones to make the tools, not so much, be the TikTok star, make someone the TikTok star with with making the next cool effect that everyone like goes crazy about. Because those are in the end, you guys are learning a trade, sort of a trade that you're going to learn the tools. The tools will change, obviously, but you're able to use those specific tools to make something that people enjoy, and it's digital software or games. It's sort of becoming that everything is becoming a video game. Like they're trying to turn shopping into a video game, getting groceries into a video game. So think about common problems and gamifying them, because there is within very short time, there's going to be a computer chip and a screen on everything, or maybe not, but we'll have a screen in our pocket at the very least, and we'll keep expanding what that screen can do for us to like expand on how we experience reality, because we're already like augmenting it by having access to each other at all times. So it's really like augmenting the communication between each other, like being able to be in a Zoom meeting and feel like it's an actual meeting. Like for Magic Leap, we got to prototype a system where you could actually see where a person was looking, and we could, kind of like VR chat, but it was augmented reality, so you could see them within your space. But those little experiments.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think that's wonderful advice. And as you know, just to let those who are watching us today know that we are inviting you and the other alumni that we're going to be talking with in the next month or so into a hubs room. That we have a student competition going on right now
That's
to
awesome.
design the room. So we'll have you and other alumni at the symposium in the hubs room, so you guys can build little avatars and meet up with everybody, engage and have a conversation. So we're looking forward to seeing you in November again as well too. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think we've used up a little bit more time than we had intended, but really appreciate the conversation and sharing your experience with the audience here, as well as you're advocating for the students and helping point people to different internships. So we'll post that up on Facebook as well too as we get that going as well.
If I could reiterate that last point is, the reason I'm doing this is ultimately to find some people interested in the stuff I'm talking about, and get your guys's, get a feel for what you guys think. I wish I could see you guys. This is different, and it is again about adapting and communicating. I don't know if it's easier or harder not seeing the audience, but again, there's something at RIT that I know that I think might need some student help, and again, there's there's always need for people coming out of school, because you guys had the time to experiment, and you guys have the latest sort of scoop on what's cool, and the newest tools.
And when you're looking at students coming out of school, what do you have some ideas of what you're looking for in their portfolios? Any advice on that?
Portfolios. Yeah. So, don't know if I should expand too much on it, or like, I don't know if there's like one big, one big tip. There's a lot of different little things. Depends if you're showing it. Depends on how you're showing it, obviously, and you have to expect that whoever is showing it to is not going to have a lot of time to see it. So whatever it's going to be, like, it's got to like wow them and keep their interest. So I would maybe stay away from like slow turntables. Make them fast. it's like think about the person looking at your work, and think about the fact that they probably saw like all this other work that day, or maybe consider that they're looking at like the entire pool of artists because they need to find someone. So you really want to like showcase yourself very quickly and boldly. And then there's different tips. I got to do portfolio reviews, so that's there's tips for that on how to go about showcasing your work. But generally now with the way things are, is my best recommendation is to have your work in as many places as possible. So like the way Google works is like it looks at links to just reputable websites that have your links on them, linking to other websites. So it's good time to start now, just signing up for all these different websites and putting your links there, and being searchable, because more and more we're depending on the internet and less on actually sitting down in person and having these opportunities to really have time and speak with someone. When you do get an interview to speak with someone, it's just all about like you as a person, right? So they might ask you technical questions, and it's gonna be all about like you being cool about it. So that's my advice for that. If you do get an interview, it's you got the job, like you have the technical, whatever work you have, you don't have to prove that you can do more than that. At that point, it's all about just being yourself, because it's really easy during an interview to keep upselling your work and then not hit what they're looking for, which is, you know, to have a real life conversation with you. So that would be my few tips. Yeah.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you so much. And thank you again for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
For those watching our next, and you're welcome to join us on this one too. Our next conversation is October 6th, which is Tuesday at 12:30. And Douglas Saunders is the alumni who's going to be joining us. He's a film producer and co-founded an award-winning augmented reality company called Extended Existence. So look out for that. And then the symposium in November. And we look forward to seeing Damian there at the symposium as well too. So thanks again. And thanks Tessa for your help. She's been fielding in the background there. And we will talk to you soon.
Yep. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.